introduce Nikki, and I'm here with my team, Nolly, Vati, and Boni at the back. But they're too shy to come join me up here, so they've left me to do the hard stuff. Okay. So our title was introduced, but basically what it is just sharing our experiences of what works and what we've done in the community and what are best practice experiences for us in the realm of early childhood development. So imagine, if you will, a bowl of steaming hot porridge. Now, porridge, much like community university partnerships, can be a wonderfully nourishing thing. But what makes a bowl of porridge truly delicious? It's not just the oats. It's the addition of the different ingredients that make it truly satisfying. Today we want to share with you the story of porridge, which is a simple analogy that illustrates the essence of strong community university partnerships. You see, in this analogy, the community university partnerships, that's the porridge. But to make the porridge fully irresistible, we need to add various ingredients. And what are these ingredients? You want to know? Well, they are as diverse as the communities we work with. So just like communities have different tastes and preferences, the ingredients for strong university community partnerships will vary depending on the context. In some communities, a little bit of sugar might sweeten the deal, while in others, a dollop of honey or a dash of milk might be preferred. But today we're going to share with you our recipe for strong and delicious community university partnerships. We will discuss the essential ingredients we have discovered through our work in the early childhood development sector here in Makanda, and how these ingredients have helped us create partnerships that are not only effective, but also have been incredibly satisfying for everybody involved. So we are from the Centre for Social Development, or the CSD, and this CSD occupies a unique and dynamic position within the landscape of community university partnerships. Because unlike traditional university departments or research centres, the CSD is a self-funded NGO that was established all the way back in 1981. We're 42 years old. Yeah. And we operate within Rhodes University. Our vision for the CSD is to create world-class ECD for every child in every community. And the way we do this is we facilitate it through two arms in the CSD. One is an academic arm, and then our division, which is the community development division. Our division is dedicated to fostering holistic development of early childhood communities. We strive to equip educators and parents with the skills and resources needed to nurture the full potential of every child. Through community-owned initiatives, collaborative partnerships, and innovative educational practices, we aim to create a supportive environment that lays the foundation for lifelong learning and social development. This hybrid model affords the CSD a distinct advantage in advancing early childhood development initiatives, but being housed within the university doesn't automatically foster partnerships within the community. Instead, there's critical roles of reciprocity, trust building, and long-term collaborations are very important to that partnership. It is, however, at this point that I'd like to just introduce a small caveat. When we were discussing this presentation and sharing our stories and ideas and about our experiences, we discovered that it was quite challenging to separate reciprocity, trust building, and long-term collaborations from each other, as they were both so interconnected and interdependent and interrelated. So instead, we decided to focus this presentation on some of the themes that arose from our discussion that reflect this interconnectedness. So with that in mind, let's explore the story of porridge and the ingredients for strong and yummy community university partnerships. Theme 1, reach people where they are at. So as we sat around the table at our favorite coffee shop, sharing our stories and our experiences around the ECD space of Makanda, I looked around the table and realized the wealth of experience that sat around me. Collectively, between the four of us, we have 58 years of working experience at the CSD and 71 years worth of community development experience. I am the baby. not in age, but in years working at the CSD, while our mum Nolly is our gogo in age and in working on dedicating 39 years of her life to the CSD. So I asked them as we were sitting around this table, how have you built, over all these years, how have you built and maintained these relationships with the ECD centers over these many years that you've been there? And the response was, one relationship at a time. My team shares that working with the ECD sector does not involve the ECD center and the learner alone. Like Bronfen-Brenner's ecological systems theory, it includes the interconnected systems and relationships that shape a learner's growth and development. Most importantly for us, it includes the parents and the interconnected social, economic, cultural, environmental, and political factors that contribute positively or negatively, or sometimes not even at all, to the children's developmental skills, attitudes, and behaviors. This is the epitome of reaching people where they are at. What it translates to in practice for us is that sometimes we needed to go door to door to connect with parents. When we arrive at the door and they are washing dishes, we are there to join in and dry the dishes. Sometimes when we get to the gate and they are gardening, we get down on our knees and we join in and pull out the weeds. Sometimes, and in fact most times, it is not as simple as having them fit into our programs. Sometimes we have to listen to their stories, have conversations about their challenges, drink tea, or just be there and be there in that moment. This requires us to be more than just a facilitator. It requires us to take on multiple roles within the community. Sometimes we are counselors, offering support and guidance to parents facing different challenges in their lives or with their children. Other times we are coaches, helping practitioners develop the skills and the confidence they need to achieve their goals in life and in the ECD centers. We often find ourselves sometimes acting as mediators, facilitating constructive dialogue and resolving conflicts between community and the ECD center, because that really does happen. And as enablers, we empower ECD centers to take control of their own lives and make positive changes in the lives of the learners and in their communities. Whether it's providing technical expertise through ECD registrations, connecting parents and practitioners with resources and opportunities through our toy libraries or Year to Resource Center, or advocating on their behalf with the Department of Education or the municipality. Building relationships, one relationship at a time, also means that we have a very active word-of-mouth referral system, where one parent or practitioner refers another parent or practitioner. The importance and value of this lies not only in the CSD extending our reach or our impact, but it's in the fact that the ECD sector in Makhanda is working together to build shared goals and to build and strengthen their ECD sector as a whole. What this highlights for us is that the relationship building is not just between the organization and the community, but also within the community itself. And a very big part of that role is that our role lies in facilitating these relationships so that the community is strengthened and capacitated to engage in sustained reciprocal community-university partnerships. In essence, reaching people where they are at is a guiding principle that shapes everything we do. As we reflect on our collective experience of 58 years working at the CSD and 71 years of community development experience, we're reminded that building and maintaining relationships with ECD centers is not a one-size-fits-all approach. It requires us to be present, compassionate, and show that we care more than just about implementing the program. By taking on multiple roles within the community, listening to their stories, having conversations about their challenges, and being there in the moment, we are able to create meaningful and sustainable partnerships to improve the well-being of the children and the families in our community. Theme 2 was, it takes the time it takes. There are all these quotes and phrases that talk about the concept of time being so measurable, and if you don't capitalize on it, then you lose it. But there's also a concept that's or saying that goes, time is not important, only life. So these two things are an absolute paradox, but yet our journey in the community has shown us that both of these things are actually true. Time is also equivalent to funders' deadlines and targets on outputs and processes. But as much as we have research deadlines or funders' targets needing to be achieved, and we have to do this by jumping hoops through institutional processes, school holidays, other work commitments, the weather, load shedding, lack of water, etc., life remains important. We need to take the time to immerse ourselves in the Makanda community, time to build trust and relationships, time to be, time to learn, unlearn, and relearn. It takes the time it takes. We have to remember to take the time to journey through both the process and the end product of any program that we implement. We have to take the time to create knowledge together. Take the time to learn from each other, and we need to have the time to try, to fail, and to try again. It takes the time it takes to get from one point to another. And that may be with just one of our ECD centers, because all the others are at different stages in their timeline, because it takes the time it takes. We have learned that you cannot separate the process from the end product for the sake of time, because without the process, the end product will have no value, and without the end product, process will have no meaning. An example of this is a comparison between two different programs that we implemented. One program included facilitating a once-off training session with participants in the education sector in and around Makanda. Time was a valuable entity. There was no relationship building beforehand, no co-creative sharing, goal setting during, and no follow-up support afterwards. We did what the funder wanted us to do. As a result, despite a very productive process, the end product was not implemented in the classroom. The educators expressed feeling lost as to how to use the resources, and the participants did not reach out to each other to gain support. The other program involved the process of meeting the participants in their ECD centers, engaging in dialogue about the design of the program, having training sessions in a rotational basis at different ECD centers, providing resources and demonstrating how to use the resources, as well as creating opportunities for practitioners to learn from each other. One of the outcomes of community development is that it creates opportunities for more community development. And so what happened within this program is that program evolved into another community development program that was impacting on those ECD centers involved. Another very important aspect about time is the actual absence of it. Boni shared a story where many years ago the team was facilitating training outside of Makanda and had lost touch with the ECD centers. When returning to the ECD centers with new programs, they discovered that the relationship had diminished and the trust that they had built was gone. They had to rebuild their relationships and re-establish the trust that they had with the ECD centers. And it took the time it took to redo that, regardless of the demands placed on them to show reach and impact with this program. Vati then shared a story of how, during the COVID pandemic, when all the schools were closed, the team maintained the relationship with the ECD sector by staying in contact telephonically, by providing digital educational resources, and delivering food parcels to families in need. Central to both of these stories is that it didn't boil down to the lack of programs or the materials. What mattered to the community members, to the parents, to the practitioners, and to the learners is that they weren't forgotten. So in the end, our journey taught us a very valuable lesson. It takes the time it takes. While time may be measured by deadlines, targets, and processes, it is also about life, relationships, and trust. We have learned that taking the time to immerse ourselves in the Makanda ECD community, I think really kind of throws you off, to build trust and relationships and to be present in the moment is essential for creating meaningful, sustainable change. Whether it is through co-creative goal setting, dialogue, training sessions, or simply just having a cup of tea. By prioritizing, we understand that true community development takes time, and by prioritizing the process as much as the end product, we've been able to create impactful and transformative programs that have lasting impact in the lives of children and families in our community. Because at the end of the day, what matters most to our community is not the programs or the material that we provide, but the relationships that we build and the trust that we've earned. And that, as we have learned, takes the time it takes. Theme 3, ukufundisana, teaching each other. On the 23rd of April, a couple of days ago, we held a multi-stakeholder meeting concerning food security and nutrition in the ECD sector. The organizations present included participants from the Department of Health and the Department of Education. We had a dietitian from Settlers Hospital and the manager of the Rhodes University health facility. I was sitting there and that meeting was so productive and filled with so much universality and so much connectedness that I remember thinking to myself, wow, look how far we've come. But in truth, that didn't happen overnight. It took many years and a lot of effort to get to that point. In order for us to teach and learn from each other, we need to engage in a practice of what we call holding space, where we are willing to walk alongside one another in whatever journey we are on, without judgment, without making each other feel inadequate, and without trying to fix or impact the outcome. In this journey of learning, we have experienced some key principles that we'd like to share with you. While being an NGO housed within a university enables us to foster a higher degree of trust and credibility within the community, it does not come without the need to follow institutional processes that can sometimes be experienced as red tape. What we do need to understand, though, is that any other organization or community entity may come with their own red tape. This makes it very important to understand, to be open and be non-critical to the context of each organization or ECD center that you are holding space with. Because when we hold space for another, we need to come with no expectations of an outcome. We may think at that moment that the point is to overcome a certain problem, but the truth is everything in communities is dynamic and ever-changing. Things come together and fall apart. That's just the way it is. The space for solutions come from letting there be room for this to happen. It's also important in this process to be creative, flexible, and have the ability to think outside of the box of community development. In our conversations about what fosters sustainable community university partnerships, one of the things that stands out of our story shed is that you need to be able to work with what you have or with what is being offered to you. We need to know that our communities are not empty vessels and that we are not the ones with all the answers to come and fill them up. When we think we know how to guide or advise them, we are in fact taking their power away from them. When we trust that they are their own best guide and don't fill up the vessel with our words, we bring to the other the chance for them to hear their own intuition. In our journey of learning and teaching each other, we have come to understand the importance of holding space for one another, whether it's engaging in multi-stakeholder meetings, collaborating with other organizations, or working in ECD centers. We have learned that true partnership requires us to walk alongside one another without judgment, without trying to fix each other, and without expectations of a predetermined outcome. By being open, non-critical, and flexible, we create a space where solutions can emerge organically, where communities can find their own voice, and where true transformation can take place. And as we continue on this journey, we are committed to practicing ukufundisana, learning and teaching from each other, to foster sustainable community university partnerships that can empower and uplift our communities. So in conclusion, these three themes are just three of the many guiding principles that are deeply interconnected with the roles of reciprocity, trust building, and long-term collaboration. Reciprocity is actually at the heart of our approach to community engagement. By reaching out to the community where they are, listening to their needs, and actively involving them in the decision-making process, we create a culture of mutual respect and understanding. This reciprocal relationship forms the foundation of trust and good community building. It takes the time it takes, reminds us that true community development is a journey, not a just destination. And ukufundisana emphasizes the importance of collaboration, learning, and mutual respect in fostering community development. and with the red sticker, and I'm almost done. These are not just individual principles, they are interconnected and independent, and just like the story of porridge, we understand that everything comes with different ingredients. It comes with the sugar, the butter, the milk, the honey, that come together to create a satisfying and nourishing meal. These components will work together to create strong, meaningful, and enduring relationships with the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to open the floor to questions, please. Do you have any?
I don't have a question, but I just want to say what a wonderful project, I mean, the work that you do, and how well presented, even though these kind of strings.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you soldiered on.
Absolutely. Do you have another question?
I don't think it's so much a question as a comment, because we work in a very similar space to the CSD, but our organisation is definitely not 41 years old. We're about half that age. So I think it's also good to just sit back and reflect on another organisation's journey, and to realise that one's challenges are not unique, and that when you're working in community development, you actually sometimes just need to take a deep breath and let the processes unfold, and not work with your own agenda or your own timescales, which are very often what funders are pushing for. And I love that it takes time. It takes the time it takes. Because I think very often one forgets, and that's something that I've learned over the last 2.5 years that I've been working in this space, is that it takes the time it takes. And sometimes you've got to go back and work the journey again.
Yeah.
And never make the assumption that it's embedded, the practice is embedded.
Yeah.
So thank you, Nix. It was a great presentation.
Thanks, Shelle.
I think I also had you touched on the how when you get into these spaces, you've got multiple roles that you need to play. Because I'm really interested in how you prepare your practitioners, or in our case at Rhodes University students, how do we prepare students to go into these spaces, and they're going there as a volunteer, but they're now having to sit there and listen to some traumatic experiences at times. How do we prepare them for this multi-role sort of?
I think in my experience, because in addition to working with this amazing team, I've also been lecturing in community development. And one of the things that stands out as very important is the processes and the stages of your engaging with the community. So not about going in, jumping in, go, hi, I'm here, I'm going to do this. It's about take the time it takes, being, affording space for the community to get to know you, for you to get to know the community, and then getting to a point where the two of you can work together to come up with things that are mutually beneficial and important. And when working with students, I realized that the process of being able to do that is about having them learn about who they are. It's having the difficult conversations, addressing the issues of power and privilege and justice, and what is your world like versus what is happening on the outside, and just having those conversations, because that prepares them for what they're actually going to talk about outside.